You guys see that? Okay, perfect. Okay, so I'm gonna show you where you can go to look at these buyer presentations. You can see this. There's two places. One is our new Canva and one is in Designs and Command. Did you see along the side here, I just clicked on Designs. And then I clicked Create a Design, and then I clicked Print. Designs, Create a Design. And when you do that, it's gonna bring up presentations, and then you have your buyer presentation here, your guide to home ownership. This is the one you can click on use, and then you can go through it and look at all the things to it. Did I do this right? Remember you gotta go back. Oh, sorry. All right. I messed this up last time. Ignore what I just did because it doesn't apply to you guys at all. But if you click on buyer presentation, there you go. There's a whole bunch of. So you have different ones you can choose from. You can gear it towards a team. I think there's a team one and there's an individual one. So they can change the wording of it, but these are awesome. These are great. You can use those. So did you see what I did? I went to Designs, Create a Design, and then when it print and click Print Design, and then it brings up this whole thing right here. And then I clicked on Buyer Presentation. So you've got a lot to choose from. When you click Use one, say it again.
I don't see designs or.
Okay, so that was back here.
On the left at the bottom of the KW, like the dashboard.
Go back to your dashboard of your 8 commands. No. Well, that's okay if you go there too. That was my next place I was going to show you guys, is to go to Canva. Okay. If you're logged into commands, one more time. On this left-hand side, there's a place that says Design.
Okay.
So you go there, and you click on that, you click on Create a Design, and then you're going to do a Print Design and click Next. Then it'll bring you to this screen. Now, ignore what I'm about to do because I'm a team, so it just messes. I had to flip it. So yours will look like this. So it's about to pop up here. And then from here, you click on Buyer Presentation. Lots of fun stuff to play with in here.
Okay.
The other place is Canva. And I don't know if I have Canva open, do I? No. I don't know what the Canva, do you guys remember what it is?
There's a link.
KW,
Canva.kw.
Canva? There it is.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right, thank you. So this, you would go to brand. And then brand templates. And then you could just type in, I think this is what we did, right? Yeah. Buyer presentation. And then you have different ones here too. So they're different, but you've got different choices. It's gonna be the same thing. Lots of the content's gonna be the same. Remember the 2 important pieces that I told you guys about to have were do's and don'ts and roadmap. Yep. Because a big piece of this is gonna be going through the contract.
I think we just gotta get the ad first.
And because it's not in Canva, but it's in commands. Got it, got it. So, I mean, y'all, I'm not gonna spend a whole lot of time with this. I'd say build your preference profile. Obviously, going through that needs analysis or that buyer consultation questionnaire is gonna help you learn what they're looking for. But bigger than that is, are they looking? Where are they looking? Are they looking on Zillow? We have an app. You can show them our app. Most people don't wanna download another app because they're already looking on Zillow or Realtor.com. I'd say just use that. That's fine. I can't say too much about our app right now. It's not, I think it's kind of clunky. I mean, I will say when I go on vacation, I use it because I like to see what's in the area. How much are the houses of the $1 million homes and I'm in this vacation? I'm like, oh my God, one day. So yeah, so it's good to set up that. How home buying works, this is our process. This is just kind of written out. We have the roadmap. You could go through it like this. The problem is, the more you talk about it, the longer that presentation becomes, and you're already like overloading them with information. So I feel like if you stick to the script, stay with the roadmap, stay with the contract, it kind of walks you through it. This is your resume. You want to include that in there too. You spin it to whatever your background is. If it was customer service, if it was marketing, you're going to talk about that, help get AI to write you your profile right there. I mean, they could probably come up with something better, no offense, than anything I could write. This is like years of experience in homes sold and blah, blah, blah. You're in an office of agents that have sold homes, so you can talk about what our office does. That's always a good thing. That's a good plug right there. Proof is in my numbers. Obviously, you're not gonna have a lot of that. These are all pages you can just remove. You don't have to, doesn't have to be a part of yours. So you pick what you want. So we talked about what's important, what I think you need to have, and then conducting that consultation, preparing for it. I am knowledgeable and caring and the best agent for these clients. They'll appreciate my expertise and preparation and choose me to represent them as they buy a home. Okay, what is the prep? Tell me what the prep is for a buyer consultation. You've got them to come into the office.
Being educated on what you.
Okay, how are you preparing for that?
Check it.
Check what?
I checked it.
A checklist, okay. Go buy a checklist of what you need to have for that appointment. I would say have your binder. Your binders can already be made. You don't have to do a binder, but what I say to that is what helps is to have all this in one place. You're not gonna use all these tabs here, but guess what? They can put their buyer rep in here. They can put their home inspection in here down the road. I mean, all that can go in here. I put the right in here in the kitchen. You grab all the information of the vendors that have come here to serve us lunch that you might have agreed with or think that might be a good home warranty company. Put a couple choices for a home warranty company. Put a couple choices for a home inspection company in here. You want to put some lender information in here, you can do that too. On the back side, I have insurance and moving. So that's why a binder does work. You could put just it in a folder if you want to. You don't have to do that, a binder. The first section of my binder just talks a little bit about me and the process of like, congratulations, now we're looking for a home. Where are you looking? Are you using Zillow? Whatever. So then you can kind of make sure you know. You might be taking notes during this time. So when you're in front of them, you're going over, you have the roadmap up on your screen. You have this binder, you're sitting next to them. And you're going through this. You're going to go through from beginning to end. You start with, so excited to meet you guys. I'm so glad I got you in. We have so much we want to talk about today. So let me just tell you what our 3 goals are. So you kind of like lay it out for them. Get to know you a little bit more, figure out where you are in this process, go over the contract, and get your search set up. That's it. That's what we're gonna do today, okay? So then you might have your laptop open because you're making notes at some point. Or you might just have a piece of paper or a notepad out that you're taking some notes on them as they're talking. Because there may be some things that you just need to remember for down the road. Find out what they're looking at now. Like, are they using an app? Are they using their computer? Are they getting listings? People can set up searches on their own in Zillow and get listings sent to them. And I've learned actually for some reason. So how it works is our MLS feeds to Zillow, Realtor.com, and all these websites. So it syndicates that information over. Sometimes it literally comes through faster to their phones than it does from our MLS. But when you set up their search, I'll show you guys this too. You want to make sure that you have it set up that they're receiving the information as soon as it comes out. So I'll show you that in a second too. Then you go through the home buying process. So you have your guide, you have your roadmap on here, you have your contract out. And then you just go through the steps of the contract, the terms of the contract. That could literally be an entirely other class because that takes about 45 minutes to go through. They'll ask questions, they won't ask questions. They ask some good questions on this last one. Sometimes they're just so glazed over, and you might have to kind of read the room and figure out if they're feeling a little deer in the headlight, take a break, start talking more about like what they're looking for, and then go back to it. Just because you're overwhelming them as it is, but you got them in the door, and this is the most important part. See. So you're going through the contract, you've put in that conversation, your do's and don'ts, because when you get to the financing section of the contract, that's where you can flip in the page about your do's and don'ts. As you're going through the financing process, guys, I want to go over some things with you that are absolutely critical to be doing in the background and to not be doing while we're going through this process. Financing is one of our contingencies. And so we want to make sure we get through that contingency. So here's how I can help you, and here's what you need to know. You can include information about neighborhoods. If you want to keep this general, you probably just keep it very basic, because then you're having to customize it for every buyer that you're meeting with, unless you know ahead of time. The only time I may customize something more is if they're new to Richmond. And you might want to have like a map up to say, we have Hanover, Henrico, Chesterfield. You've picked Chesterfield. So here's downtown and you've picked Chesterfield. I just want you all to be aware. He's working at MCV. You want to be in Chesterfield. There are some tollways in between here and there. North Chesterfield, South Chesterfield. So it might be helpful to have that up too during that conversation. But that's really the only time you get real in depth about areas. Especially for the people coming in for like relocation. That would probably be the best time to do that. Because, and when you set up their searches, you might set it up by area. So you might set up a home search for them that says homes up to 650 in Chesterfield. And you set up a whole other search for them, homes up to 650 in Henrico. So then they're starting to learn where the areas are by the listings that are being sent to them. It's not all just coming through as one, because they're like, we don't know where we want to be. I heard good things about Deep Run. I heard good things about Midlow High School. We've got 4 kids who play sports. So you're taking notes on all those things, but they just don't really know at this point. Schools are important. You're going to lead them to where should buyers be looking when it comes to school for that information. You do not necessarily want to send them to greatschools.net. That is where everybody goes, but it's also the people who post to that have the loudest voice. So if they're so happy about a school, they'll write about it. And if they aren't happy about a school, they're going to write about it. If they strictly want to look at demographics, scores, pass rates, go to the Virginia Department of Education. That is absolutely your most concrete information, and it's a legitimate source. Is that correct?
Absolutely. Or recommend them to go to PTA meetings.
Recommend what?
PTA meetings.
Oh, to attend one?
Yeah.
That'll tell you how involved parents are. For sure. I used to be a teacher. I taught at Highland Springs Elementary in Easton, Henrico. I taught at Watkins Elementary in North Chesterfield. I taught at Enon Elementary in South Chesterfield. 3 very, very different schools. And I would say my favorite was Highland Springs by far. Second Enon, and third Watkins. I loved working with kids in an at-risk population. But that's just where my heart was. When I see these kids in Watkins who have everything, I'm like, they don't really need me. Mom's doing everything for them. You get the best teacher gifts, for sure.
I just don't agree with that. She teaches there.
At Watkins? She does? Well, compared to Highland Springs Elementary.
Well, fair.
By far. But the meaningful teddy bear from his bedroom means so much more than the $50 Target gift card, because that was like all he had, and that's breakfast. So it was definitely different, and I love both. But Schools are important to people. That's really a big deal, but you cannot direct them on which school you think is the best. So that's why they have to go to the source. All right, wish list. You can take your notes, you can fill out this buyer consult. This is very thorough. But as a new agent, it might be really good to go through because it's very specific. It breaks it down by lifestyle, location, type of house, the exterior, interior, bedroom, bathroom, kitchen, dining room, it's all of it in here. Remind me, what is the most important when you're setting up their search? Location, right? School if they know it, if they are specific about school. What else? What else do they typically know?
Bedrooms, bathrooms.
Bedrooms, bathrooms. Those are really the only important things unless they really know their schools. And honestly, even with schools, like I recently had a client who said they want North Chesterfield and wanted just Midland. And I was like, well, what if we opened it up to, because it sounds like there's similar schools to Midlow. And what's important about Midlow? Well, I just heard the schools are so good. Okay, where are you looking at this information? Like, where do you see that? Because to me, every school has their issues, every school. So when it came down to it, we did add Clover Hill. We added James River and Cosby. So that changed everything. That changes everything about their search. So schools, you just got to dig a little deeper if they're real specific. Now, if they say my stepson goes there and we want to be, okay, then, yep, I get it. Right. That's where we're going to set up that search. So pry a little bit more if they're real set on their schools. I will say this, do not ever let them be set on an elementary school. Ever. If you're going to set a school, it has to be a high school. Why?
There's way more elementary schools than there are.
Way more elementary schools. So that means you're only letting listings come to be sent to them that are here. But yet, guess what? Midlow receives kids from 6 different elementary schools. And guess what? Their kids only 5. So for one, rezoning happens, new schools are built, and a lot can happen by the time they get to high school. So just be very mindful when you start to get real specific with schools when you're setting up a search. Oh, wait. I'm probably not the best person to talk about this. So let me tell you what these are, and you guys might have heard this. This is a letter that buyers will sometimes write to a seller in a multiple offer situation to say why they are the absolute pick for this property. Now, tell me why this could be a liability. Fair housing. So you're asking a seller to pick you based on possibly familial status. If you added a picture to this, possibly race. So there's a lot of reasons why you shouldn't do that. And unfortunately, this is being recorded, and if Patrice is listening, she's gonna kill me. I have definitely done. Definitely done. And I will definitely say it has definitely helped my buyers win house. So you just have to be very specific. Now, let me tell you what my rules are in this. I give them some criteria on what not to include, and I never look at it. And that goes on the listing side too. If I get a love letter, I give it straight to the seller. I don't even read them. I don't want to know anything about this situation. That keeps you out of the liability, but really, the seller needs to have you have a conversation with your sellers to say, you're really picking based on the best offer, and I'm gonna show you the 4 offers and the terms of each of these offers, and you have to decide based on the terms what offer makes the most sense to you. Not the letter that says she's going through IVF and she really wants a baby, or her dad just died and this is why they would be the perfect fit for the house. It really comes down to that. But you also know that if it's a grandma that owns a house that's lived there forever and ever, she wants someone who's gonna love that house as much, and your sweet little buyers are gonna live there forever too, that might help them. So just be real specific on what to include in that, and I'm waiting for Patrice to come in and say like, no, don't ever do it. Don't ever do it. Any questions on that? Yes, sir.
When, at this point, are you having them sign the buyer representation agreement? You're setting them up for all this stuff.
Perfect.
There we go.
Perfect. So we've gone through the terms of the contract. We are ready to go ahead and get this thing moving. Now, there's a couple ways to do this. I met with these buyers the other day, and honestly, based on their background, I didn't know whose first and last name was what. Because I was introduced to them, it was a referral from a realtor. So she just referred to their first name. I saw their email addresses that had last names in it, and they weren't the same, but I knew they were husband and wife. So sometimes you can print out a blank buyer's rep and fill it out by hand right there, because you may not have the information. If you have their information, go ahead and pre-fill it out and bring that with a copy of the contract that you're going over to this appointment. And you can talk about it right then and there. So what we did in our situation was, we went over the buyer's representation agreement. We talked about commission, because that's always a question. I made it very clear that this is a negotiable term that we now see in our contract, because we'd already gone over it in the contract. And our goal is to request the seller pay that portion. It's actually under seller closing costs contributions or something like that. It's actually a part of that. So they see that. They asked a great question. What if the seller doesn't agree to the full 3%? Well, that's a great question. We are going to obviously request that, and if they come back, you all will know whatever the percentages that they are offering to pay, and then the difference will have to be made up by you all. When we get to that point, depending on what that amount is, we may be able to renegotiate our fee, and I will do a net sheet for them, or some sort of paper, it's called a net sheet, to show them what additional money they'd have to bring to closing for to pay my commission. So that's how you go over that with them. You guys have probably talked about the buyer's rep. Everybody does theirs differently. I did not get them to sign this because I didn't have their names correctly. I didn't know how to do that. And they said, can you send it to us by email? So I went over everything with them, answered all their questions, and then I sent it to them electronically, and they signed it electronically. Obviously, before you go out for your first time looking, you're gonna get them to have it signed by that point. So it's your decision on how you bring it up.
Set them up to get the listing anyway, or because they're getting them anyway, what benefit?
I do. I go ahead and set it up. I'm already showing them my value. And most of the times you can read their response. And I wasn't worried. This was a referral from a realtor. They're first time buyers. They were very grateful for the time. And so I'm not really worried about it. I haven't had really pushback on that when I've sent it over. I am really bad because I do a lot of referral business and lots of repeat clients that I just get them to sign it when we start looking. We're like, and that's really bad. So if I meet with them, I know it's gonna be signed because I send it right away. It's when I'm like already under contract and the TC is like, where's the buyer paperwork? And I'm like, got it, yeah. You'll get it in your email in just right. All right, any questions on that? Does that make sense? Yes, sir.
Just a specific question about the seller paying the commission. Is that what you do? Is that standard now or what? Like,
So it's always been the fact that it's always been presented to sellers that they are going to pay 6% commission, 3% to the buyer's agent, 3% to the listing agent. The problem was it was never explained to the seller that that is actually a negotiable rate. So people were explaining this when they were in a listing presentation as, you'll pay the buyer's agent 3%, I'll get 3%, sign this paper. But that's never how it's been. It's always negotiable. So what they've done is they've removed it from the MLS where it used to list the amount the seller was offering. And now they make it a part of the contract where they actually fill in the percentage of the commission that's going to go to the buyer's agent.
because I can't remember, I think it might have been Joni who told us, said, don't discount ever, say 3%.
Yeah.
We're getting different.
No, that's what I'm saying. You're always going to do the 3%, but you put it in the contract when you're asking the seller.
just sure.
When you submit an offer,
Right,
right?
right. When you submit the offer, the paperwork that you have signed with your buyer is 3%. And honestly, you guys get to decide what you said. I would try not to discount, like you really don't want to. The goal is the 3% and that seems to be the norm. It really does. Now, since we've seen a shift in the market, yes, we have seen builders are sometimes at 2, sometimes 2.5. Ryan Homes is less than 1%. Crazy, it's crazy, crazy. So you decide what you want to set your commission at. Whatever is on that paper that you signed, that buyer's rep, you're transferring it as a part of the contract now, asking the seller to pay. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, we're not done. I know it sounds like we're done, we're not done though. What time is it? 11, perfect. Okay. So we're gonna skip around now because we're gonna go to, working with, let me change it. I'm gonna change this to not win the seller. Yeah, it's a different section called working with buyers and sellers, I think. And we're gonna just do the buyers part of that. So, here.
Yeah.
Okay, bye. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. What section is it for you guys? 16. Okay. I'm not doing win with sellers, win the seller, someone else is doing that. So we're just gonna skip straight to working with the buyers. Oh, all right. Virtually every top producing agent we have ever worked with has a deep and almost inherent sense of service. They have a servant heart, they have a servant heart and place their buyers or sellers' real estate experience above all else. They are always thinking service. It is true. This is a service industry. If you were ever a waiter or waitress, like when I go to restaurants, if you've had a good experience with a waiter or waitress, I will typically be like, dude, you would make an incredible realtor because it is a service industry. So, I'll sometimes give somebody my card and be like, if you ever thinking about doing a career change, just the way you communicate with someone, you're making eye contact with them. It's very, very important for that relationship. And you'll see that you'll get the respect from them. Even as a new agent, you don't have to have all the answers at all. And you can very easily go to them and say, I don't know the answer to that, but I'm going to get that for you. And that looks even just as good. It's not trying to be the know-it-all. And it's really just saying, I can make this happen. Set and manage expectations proactively throughout the transaction. That might be part of your honest conversation. There are going to be times that you're going to ask me a question that I may not know the answer to. And I even say that still. Because guess what? No two real estate transactions are the same. So I'm gonna be the expert in this and make sure that you are aware of every situation that could potentially happen, and I will get an answer for you on something. Creates peace of mind and enhances your credibility. 3 levels of service: your purpose, your value proposition, and your fiduciary. Who remembers the difference, going back to the real estate school days, between functionary and fiduciary? What's functionary?
Like,
Functionary is more kind of like everyday tasks that people can do versus fiduciary is more of a trusting legal duty that violate.
Correct. Specific task functionary, more specific to a task related to a client. But fiduciary is encompassing. You're gonna have a fiduciary responsibility to them throughout the entire process. So it's gonna cover many different things, many different tasks. Does anyone remember what the difference between dual agency and designated agency are? Okay, that's one thing that's very important to clarify in your buyer's rep conversation and in the contract, to say, I represent you and you only. I would never represent both a buyer and a seller. It gets really messy. I can't look out for your best interest in that. They just want to know that you're going to look out for their best interest, for sure. Now, designated agency is different. We have a pretty big office, so there's a good chance Mel may sell one of my listings at one point. And is that okay? Oh, it's absolutely okay. So we're gonna be under the same brokerage selling, she has the buyer and I have the seller. And that is okay. So you can just make sure with your clients, listen, if we get to that point where I have a pretty big office. And there's a good chance that someone in my office, we are one of the largest brokerages in the Central Virginia MLS. There's a good chance that someone in this office may sell one of our listings. And the way we market on a weekly basis, that very well could happen. And that's okay. So if that does happen, you will know. I will make sure you're aware, and there will be a document that you'll sign to clarify it's designated agency where she represents the buyer and I represent you as the seller. It's an easy conversation, but it also just sets that expectation for them. All right, so we've gone through the transaction process with them. We've gone through what it's gonna look like when they get pre-approved for the loan. We've gone through the roadmap. These are all the things that are in that process. And it's kind of just like setting up their expectations so that when it does happen, not only are they like, well, wait, what about, you already know the answer to that. And then they may say, oh, that's right, you talked about that, you talked about that. Setting time expectations, talking about the different contingencies in a contract. It's very important that once you go under contract, you may want to send them an email or have your transaction coordinator, if you're using one, send them an email with the timeline of dates related to the contract. When do your home inspections have to take place by?
Depends on when you write in, but you generally 10 days.
Right. So that is a number that is fluid. That could change. When would you put less days in a contract? Why?
It's waived.
If it's waived, what else? If you're in a multiple offer situation and you think you could get it done quicker. Lots of times in the slower seasons, we can do 7-day inspection contingencies because there's availability of inspectors a lot more frequently. If you're in a multiple offer situation, you're telling seller that, hey, we're gonna get this done. We're gonna submit within a week to you our inspection request.
Quick question for you.
Yes.
I haven't done a transaction with the new septic rules in place.
Mhm.
Are you still doing the 10-day window for the new septic?
So that does not apply to that. The septic doesn't. The one thing with septic that is tricky is if you have a seller, you're supposed to submit or provide to them a guideline of the septic's operating system. And that's very possible something that some seller does not have, but you can go to the county and ask for a copy of that. So if you get a listing with a septic system, I would go ahead and like start that process now. Because that's something that you're gonna have to receive as a buyer's agent.
Right.
And then also they have to do your septic inspection too. But they have to give you this septic operating system report.
Have you run into the case yet where they're selling it as a 4-bedroom, 2.5 bath, and the permit says 3-bedroom, 2 bath?
I haven't, but I will tell you, I did that on my house.
Yeah.
So I lived in a Main Street home that was the model. And it was in a community that has septic system. And when we bought the house, they could only list it as a 3-bedroom. It was a 3,800 square foot home, and it was listed as a 3-bedroom. What Main Street did was they left a closet out of one of the rooms, so they couldn't call it a bedroom. And they built the septic system as a 3-bedroom. So when you build a septic system, the size of it is dependent on how many bedrooms are in the house. Just for the record, so you know, each bedroom that they signify for that size is 2 occupants per bedroom. So a 3-bedroom would be 6 primary occupants. Does that make sense? There is a such thing as a septic waiver. And so what we did was, I went to the state department, Mike Callahan, and I said, Mike, we added a closet. It is now 4-bedroom. And I only have 5 people living in my house as a 4-bedroom. If I market it, that it's built as a 3-bedroom and we have a septic waiver, can I get a septic permit, a septic waiver? Sure can. So I submitted the paperwork. It was $150. And I was able to market my listing as a 4-bedroom. Game changer. My house that I bought sat on the market for so long because he could only list as a 3-bedroom. After we bought it, he's the one who told me, he's like, Christy, I made a huge mistake. The realtor on the other side was like, I made a huge mistake on this. It was a flip. And he was like, we should have gotten the waiver and I could have listed as a 4-bedroom.
But-
I'm like, works for me.
So that just limits the number of occupants the house can have the next time someone buys
Correct,
it, right?
correct. And who has 2 people per room anyways?
No.
Right, it never happens. Never happens. So, yes, sir.
Where'd you go to get that cert waiver?
So the Virginia Department of Health, Virginia Department of Health is the one who got it. We were in Henrico County, so I don't know if Mike Callahan is with Virginia Department of Health or if Mike Callahan works with VDH to get it and he's with Henrico. So it's not a hard thing to do. But if you have a listing, I had another agent in this office ask me about it because he had septic. And it's so easy. If you already have it as a 4-bedroom, but you can't list it because of that, just know what your septic system can hold, first of all. And a lot of times you don't, so you're gonna have to call the county when you take a listing. If you have it as a 4-bedroom or they've added on, you automatically have to question, wait, did they find out if this can even count for a 5-bedroom? Like, is the septic big enough? Most times builders don't build a septic big enough based on possible add-ons, let's put it that way. So they're not gonna build a septic, put a septic system in for a 5-bedroom when it's only a 4, knowing that down the road they may finish the 3rd floor and add a bedroom. They don't do it that way. No, because it costs money that they have to pay for that.
So was the compensating factor also that you didn't have very many people sleeping in the house?
I didn't even have to, he did not even question that. I just said, I added, the 4th bedroom was there, it didn't have a closet. I added a closet. The disclaimer is that it's in the MLS, in the agent remarks, I put, the system was built for 6 primary
So you
occupants.
disclosed that initially. right?
Yep. And see attached waiver. So then if they had any questions, they could see that. And like, the people never questioned it. The agent we sold it in a week and it works great. So that does happen. For sure. Great question. So set time expectations. So we have, home inspection contingencies. What else? What else is defined in the contract as a timeline? HOAs, yeah. EMD, what is typical on an EMD?
5 days.
Earnest money deposit, 5 days. So typically on a contract, you're gonna put in the blank where it says, when will I deliver the earnest money? 5 days. That's a great case there's a weekend that falls in that time, case they're needing to move some money around. Find that out too, if they're gonna have to be moving some money around. And then that gives that clarity on that. Appraisal. In our contract, it automatically is stated in there that the appraisal will be ordered within 15 days of ratification. So remember, we talked about not ordering the appraisal till after you finish negotiating inspections. Just make sure you're paying attention to that timeline. And that's not 15 business days, that's 15 days. Now, what if, here's a scenario for you. I have a client who, first time buyer, Sweelo first time buyer. And Joni had the listing. And yes, this is a real story. And we are 3 days before closing. And the lender does a soft pull of her credit, which always happens. Believe it or not, your lender's gonna do a soft pull of your credit right before closing. Because guess what? The last time they did it was probably 60 days ago. When they did a soft pull of her credit has dropped 40 points. Why?
What? She was shocked.
She had not paid her credit card bill. Well, she thought she had it set, bless her little heart, on automatic payments. And it had taken that much time for it to show up on the credit reporting, agencies, report. And so at that point, it showed 60-day delinquency on a credit card. So guess what? She no longer qualified. 3 days before closing, seller had already moved out. Now, she then receives a loan denial letter from the lender. So is she due her earnest money?
She was with the loan, so yeah.
Yeah.
We should have to pay the DOT.
Her earnest money, she could get back because she just no longer qualifies. So that's a loan denial. There isn't a timeline on the contract that states when you have to submit to that seller or agent your loan denial. I hate that about our contract, but it is true. In Texas, it's not that way. They have 21 days to get financing. But in Virginia, it's not that way. So, in the end, she did give up her earnest money because it was the right thing to do. She made a huge mistake. It was Joni's listing. I didn't want to look at her for like a year. I felt so bad. It was awful. Her people had already moved out. It was awful, awful, awful. But she made a big mistake. She didn't buy again after that. She moved in with her boy. So, that's a very good idea. So make sure your buyers know that that can happen, which is why you don't co-sign for someone. You don't go buy the big furniture. You want to go fill up that house. You know, what we did one year, we needed new cars. Like we were literally like, we're gonna just make these work. We're gonna make them work. We closed on our house on October 31st. On November 1st, we would have bought 2 cars because I didn't want to mess up our debt to income ratio. So, and I knew we could afford the 2 cars, but I was like, I don't want to mess up anything there. So we just waited. We just bled money that whole 2 weeks, giving money to everybody. So just make sure you know, like the financial situation and that they're aware that that could happen. That they're going to get their credit pulled at the very last minute. But there is no defined timeline for a loan denial. Document expectations. Where's the timeline with your document expectation? In the contract, a response deadline. So when you write an offer on something, the last paragraph, second to last paragraph, talks about response deadline. So it's a defined date and time that your offer has to be responded by. If it is not, contract's null and void. They have to respond by that time.
Do we always have to have a date, like the exact date where?
Yep, it's a form, it's a place you fill in. So it'll say October 14th, 3 p.m. You put it in, AM or PM, you put the exact time that it's gonna have to have a response by. Now, if you're in a multiple offer situation, you might see in the agent remarks, please put response deadline as Tuesday at 7 p.m. Why would that be the case?
They're just taking all offers, gonna review them and then decide
Yes.
on one day.
Right, so what if your offer deadline was 10 a.m. on Monday, but your response deadline was until Tuesday at 7 p.m., why is that? They want the time to look over all those offers. As a listing agent, you're getting those offers and you're creating a spreadsheet of all the different terms of every offer. And then you're gonna sit down with that seller and go over all the offers with them, or like, hopefully all the offers with them. And then they then can respond or go back and forth, because what if the first one doesn't work out? Hey, I had a buyer win an offer after we've been looking for like a year, finally committed to something, and he gets on a plane and starts drinking and calls me at his first stop, and he don't want to sign the contract because he's drunk. I was like, but you won. You're in multiple offers, like, I'm having second thoughts, I'm like, why are you drinking? This is not good. So guess what? They had to move on to the next offer. So you need that time. But that,
Are you kidding?
oh yeah, and he didn't, oh, by the way, he didn't actually buy a house until 2 years later. And by the way, when he finally did buy a house, we got through inspections and everything else. And then he goes to visit his dad one weekend, and this is really sad. His dad was like on his deathbed, and he's like, I have to move to Pennsylvania. So we literally had to terminate the contract, and then after like 3+ years, this buyer watched rates go from 2 to 3 to 4 to 6. His purchasing power was just diminishing in that time. And he's renting, by the way, that whole time, just throwing money in it. finally committed to something and we had to terminate. And he lost his earnest money on that one because we had been through every contingency already. So
So,
he sent me a lot of gift cards after that and I was like, let's just buy a house when you get back, please. Can we? He did say his dad's doing very well and he's gonna come home in January, so that's good. Document expectations. So yeah, they need to know that they have to sign something by a certain time because they will expire. When you go over with them the contract, you'll also just share with them. There may be some additional documents that you're gonna sign. I'll make sure you're aware of what those are. If the house was built before 1978, they're gonna sign a lead-based paint addendum. If it's as is, they're gonna sign an as-is addendum. So there will be other things that they'll have to sign potentially. So you just set those expectations on that at a point.
Does it hurt to get a lead based signs, even if they end up, like, just at the beginning?
No.
Okay. Even if they end up with a
No.
house that doesn't need it?
Nope, the seller is supposed to send that form to you. You would never sign it first and give it to a seller.
Gotcha.
Because they're the ones that are telling you that there's nothing wrong with the house.
Gotcha.
So if you're signing it first, you're saying, we know that there's nothing wrong, right? Okay, we'll just sign this. So you have to let them submit it to you. Same with the residential property disclosure. Some agents are lazy and do not put that one-page disclosure signed by their sellers on the MLS. Do not get your buyers to sign it first. The seller is supposed to sign that because that document states they are unaware of any known defects to the property. If you're signing a blank document that the seller's gonna sign, how do you know that that's legit? Like, they're like, oh, good, they signed this, great, we will too. So they have to submit that to you first. Communication expectations, you just want to make sure what's the best way to communicate. I'll do a group text if that works. This couple had mentioned WhatsApp to me and I'm like, WhatsApp for a group? I was like, I don't pay attention to that. So I started a regular group text and they're like, yeah, this will work. I'm like, okay, good. Contingencies, we talked about those. Up to date marketing expectations, that's gonna be more with sellers. Technology. I mean, this is if you use their checklist in here, there are some, I don't use those, so it's your call. 3 steps to gaining referral. Provide the value, ask for help, and offer a reward. We do a date night once a month giveaway. So it's a date night giveaway where if you give us a review during that month, you're entered into a drawing. At the end of every month, we do a drawing for however many reviews we have, and I do a $50 gift card once a month. You can do $25 Amazon gift card, whatever it is. You could do a jar of jelly that your grandma makes or whatever. You know, you can pick something. Reviews are a good thing, but it's offering a reward. We had 5 last month, which I thought was pretty awesome. We don't typically get that. A great place to get those reviews is at events. So if you host an event or you partner with another agent to do a pie giveaway or whatever, have a QR code out at your event so they can just right then and there leave you a review. They may have never worked with you, but you're offering a service to them and you've already been in communication with them about what great real estate, what a great realtor you are. So they should know that. Everybody wants the reviews. You can get them for buyer or sellers. And we talked about the buyer's needs analysis, what's important to them. Showing homes based on needs analysis. I just was telling you guys this. If I would have asked the question that mother-in-law was living with them, I would have never showed them that 3-story condo. What a waste of my time. And not to be mean, but it's totally my fault. So it's asking the right questions so you can show the least amount of homes as possible before you, like, try to make it a goal, like with yourself. Like, okay, on this one, I feel like I know enough about them. I'm gonna just show them 8 houses and we're gonna get under contract in 8 houses. Like, make it a game. Because you really, Catherine Ham is the best at this. She does all the work on the front end to know so much about that buyer that by the time they get in her car, she doesn't have to show them many houses because she knows what they want and what they need. Home tour toolkit. Yeah, this is important stuff. I always keep toilet paper because if you're in a vacant property and someone's got to go, it's good to have that for sure. Also a flashlight. That's always a good one too. Is that on here? Yep. Those are probably the 2 biggest ones. If you have buyers from out of town, I'll always put some water and some snacks in there, especially if the kids are involved. on that day. Tape measure, very good one to have. Definitely at a home inspection to take this, because someone's gonna wanna measure, where's the couch gonna go? How big is the bedroom? Can I put the headboard here? That kind of thing. So a tape measure is a good thing to have, with you. Safety first, does everybody know about forewarn? Okay, good. Yeah, our job is not to show homes, it's to sell homes, which is why I was saying, get as much information as you can up front, so you're not having to show them all over creation, because they can't make up their mind on where they want to be. And then showing them a lot of houses because they don't know what they want. Reason buyers hesitate, they're afraid to commit. They don't like some minor detail of the home. Oh yeah, that's gonna be a big one. Like, because they don't like the color of the carpet. So you're not gonna pick this house because of that? Okay, I can tell you, it's probably gonna cost you about $1,500 to carpet this bedroom and that bedroom. So is it worth losing this because it has everything else that you want? So you kind of just need to help them think through things, because sometimes they don't. They get stuck in the weeds on stuff. They feel like they haven't seen enough homes yet. Oh, gosh. Yeah, that's a beware statement right there. They need to sleep on it to get the opinion of a trusted advisor. I mean, if mom or dad are helping them or providing the funds, that might be something you can fight on. I would just end the conversation with all the reasons it's a good choice for them. You're not forcing them to make the decision, you know, you're just providing. I had some buyers call me and say, I know we're gonna build, and the buyer has not deeded the lot yet, so we can't start even the process until that's done. And they're just getting antsy, and they're like, this house just came up in the market and it's in Suffolk. And I'm like, "What? Suffolk? What? And they're like, it's the house. It's the perfect house. It's on acreage. It has the pool, the mother-in-law suite. It's everything." And I was like, okay, but we're building in Yorktown. Like, you're gonna have to you go through the tunnel. And they're like, well, here's what you don't know. And so they filled me in on some things that were changing for their family. And I'm like, okay, I can see it. But they have kids. And I'm like, I don't know. But I was like, okay. So we go to the house. Actually, they went first because they were like, we made a mistake. We didn't want to bother you. So we reached out to the agent through Zillow. And I didn't realize that it doesn't go to the listing agent. It goes to the agent who pays for that lead. So this particular listing was a company showing, because it was like a higher price point. So the listing agent had to be at the showing. So they call me, and they're supposed to be at the showing in half an hour. And I was like, hold the phone. What? And so they're like, I know, I think we made a mistake, because I don't even think the listing agent is the one who's showing it to us. I was like, okay, well, I'll look it up. Who is it? And they gave me the girl's name, and I'm like, no, that's not the listing agent. I said, but guess what? You are gonna meet her, because she's gotta be there, because this is a company showing. They're like, what do we do? And I was like, I said, where are you? And he's like, we're at Narav's office. And I'm like, okay, just sit tight. This is there in Hampton at this point. So I call the agent, because here's what I'm thinking. This seller's been inconvenienced, the listing agent's been inconvenienced. I really don't care about the buyer's agent, because no offense, I don't know them. But what if they really do love this house, and now we're already starting on a bad foot? So I called the listing agent, she doesn't answer. I was like, of course she didn't, because she's waiting for them to get there. So like 30 minutes passes, and I like text her, and I was like, can you just call me when you get this? I have to tell you about a showing that you're supposed to have today. I just said that. So she calls me, and I explained what happened. And she was like, well, how did they get a pre-approval letter? I was like, well, they have funds. And so I guess this agent just asked for it, because part of the showing requirements was you had to give a pre-approval to the agent, to the listing agent, because it was that high of a price point. So I was like, and I didn't really want to start on the wrong foot with you if they do love this house, but it does seem to be everything that they love. And she was like, could they come see it now? Because I said, well, is the other agent still there? And she said, no, she left. And I said, oh, okay, so you're still there. And she was like, yeah. And they have a newborn. So she's like, oh, this is even worse. So she goes inside, she talks to the sellers. They're like, yes, send them right now. So I was like, get in the car and go. I said, she's going to show it to you. She's a pretty cool agent. So she's gonna be there, but just go see the house. So they go, they call me afterwards. They're like, this is it. I love it, but we want you to see it too. I was like, of course. So I go, And it's definitely not the house. Like, I walk in and I'm like, I know, I've been working with them long enough, like what they were gonna build was not this. So when I walk in, I was like, how many square feet is this? And it was like 5,000 some, and I'm like, okay. So it's like this super cute from the outside, pretty much a Cape Cod. And I don't know if you know about Cape Cod, but the roofs are like this. So I go upstairs and there's 2 windows upstairs. So 2 bedrooms don't even have windows.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And all the roofs are like this. And they built these cute, and the hallway in between the front side of the house, the back side of the house, is probably 2 of those panels. It's gigantic, like the biggest wasted space. The kitchen was to die for. Like, I took a video of the kitchen. I was like, this is like my dream kitchen. The outside space, like this beautiful saltwater pool with this basketball court with these weeping willows, beautiful. So I'm walking through the house with them. Again, the listing agent has to be there at this point. So she's hearing me talk about all these things. And I'm like, okay, so what about this room? What would this be? What could you use this for? And they're like talking through it and they're trying to be positive. And so I'm still talking to them. We go through another space. I'm like, who would go in this room? What would happen here? Well, I could use it as an office. I'm like, you don't work from home. Okay, because it's too small to make a bedroom. Okay. Wait, and where's your mom gonna be? She's gonna be over the garage. So we go out there to this cool apartment. The steps to get up to this garage, I was like huffing and puffing myself. And I'm like, Mom, please be careful. Because of course, Mom came, Dad came. Both sets of grandparents were there at this point, and I was like, oh my gosh. So they leave, we all leave. And like 10 minutes later, they call me and they're like, so you kind of made us think about some things that, no, we don't want the house. I was like, okay, that's good. I figured, I had a feeling, and I said, I did not mean to be like a Debbie Downer in that. And they're like, no. You made us see things that we never would have thought about. But if you know your buyers, I tell you all that to say, you know what they're looking for. Don't let them stray from what the like non-negotiables are. Like, Mom is moving in with them, like immediately, not like at one point. So why would you have an in-law suite that like goes like that? Because that immediately means you're gonna have to put a chair on it. So you're already like, no, like don't do that. Don't do that. So we're back to meeting with the builder on Wednesday to keep the ball rolling on that process. But you're gonna need to just make sure they see things from your perspective, because you do probably know them better than they know themselves in some situations. Decision-making, always go back to their motivation. Okay, remember guys, you said you wanted to be in here before school started. So we really have to focus on what's important. If the 4 bedrooms and the 2 full baths are what's important, the fact that it doesn't have the playroom wasn't what was important to you at that point. So always go back to what is motivating. And that drive. You don't want to have that drive as soon as school starts. Solve their challenges. Oh, you know what? You may not be able to do this, but you could do this. And if you put new carpet here, or just change out the flooring altogether, like you can suggest things that aren't going to break the bank too. You see a lot of houses, you know what's more. Right? We're not doing this. I think that's honestly.
Christie, I did have a question
Yes,
about managing expectations.
yes.
Regarding those buyers, I'm
Mhm.
assuming, and I assume probably part of managing expectations. Just reminding them clearly that they have a buyer agency agreement with you. Them reaching out to the agent on Zillow, can you walk me through that scenario?
Yeah,
Did you stop them? Like, at some point, they ended up calling, is that correct?
yes, they did, because they
And
realized
so
they
did
made a
you
mistake.
stop them and tell them not go to the appointment, and then? the
Yeah.
agent that was there left, and so they subsequently.
Yeah. Yeah, they didn't even want to call the agent.
Because it's a reminder, for me, that regardless of what you mention it to them,
Right,
how are you talking about that in that consultation as it relates to dealing with other agents?
so this was purely out of not inconveniencing me, because it's like a drive from here to Suffolk. And so they were like, what if it's not the house? And I was like, yeah, but you are then inconveniencing 2 other people, which is kind of, in my opinion, selfish of them, but yet they were trying to look out for me. So you just have to say, listen, I'm gonna be your best advocate in conversations. When you go to open houses, be very careful on what you disclose if you're going to open houses, which I 100% approve and think it's a great idea for you to do. Like, in fact, on weekends, if I know there's an open house and there's a house they wanna see, I'm just gonna send them, call the agent and be like, hey, I have some clients coming through. You just coach them on saying, watch what you say, remember, your allegiance is to me, mine is to you, she's gonna be looking out for her seller. So you know them best, and so the conversation at the buyer's appointment is, with all things, come to me first. If you don't know the answer, just ask me first. I will hopefully have an answer for you. As it relates to other properties, as it relates to areas that you may not think that I cover. Because that was their biggest thing, is they just didn't want to inconvenience me because it was so far, but I'm still your agent. So at least tell me, because guess what I could have done? Just set up the showing with the listing agent. She was already out there, right? So we ended up having to do that, but the wrong way of doing that, you know?
But some of them end up going to a new construction site as well.
That's a big one. So I've heard people do little cards that you give, or just your business card that has information on the back and say, you are represented by, and then present this card to a listing agent, to a sales rep at a new construction facility. The one thing I think now you have to talk about in your buyer consultation with new construction is, there are some builders that will not give you the commission if they go there first without you registering them. Lennar and Williamsburg is one of them. I don't know who here is, there's Lennar here now too, but I do know that there will be builders who will say, I'm sorry, they just came on their own. They did not say they had an agent. And that's the worst part, if they say they don't have an agent. Like, you have to coach them in that buyer consult to say, from here on out, we are in relationship. And my goal is to provide you the best service and be an advocate for you. And I can only do that properly if you allow me to be a part of the search. And that means when you go to new construction, if you're gonna go, just let me know. I should hopefully be able to tell you whether it's a good fit or not, just by looking at whatever you want to see. Like, and then you just say, here's the reason why. A builder is there, an agent who's representing a builder is there to represent the builder. And so they don't have your best interest in mind. And you wouldn't believe it, but there is plenty of room for negotiating in a new sales contract. People don't think that, but there's absolutely, and especially this time of year, from here until December, it's like free game with new construction. Because they don't want those listings on their books by the beginning of the year. So there's gonna be some mad deals to be made with new construction. And I say that more in probably condos and townhouses, because if you pay attention to marketing, to reports, like I look at the statistics every month. Our condos and townhouses inventory has gone up a lot, and it has a lot to do with new construction. So that's gonna be where there's a lot more wiggle room on your negotiating. And so as an agent to a buyer, they need to know that you don't even know what you have options of. And that the builder rep is not gonna disclose all of that to you. So you absolutely want representation.
Thank you.
It doesn't hurt them.
Appreciate it.
They're not paying it. That's the one place we know what our commission's gonna be, is with builders. Whereas with a seller of a resale property, we're having to request our commission be paid. You already know what it is with a builder. Any other questions? I kind of went through that second half fast because we were going through it in here. All of the information that's here, I will put in that Google Drive and send to you guys today, so you guys will have access to it. If you could do me a favor, I don't know if I'm in here, but this is a place to do a review. So if you can scan this QR code and give me a review, if my name is not in there, you can type it in. If it's not in the drop down, you can put it in there, but you can see, because I've taught now a couple of times, so it should be in there. And then I need everybody's email addresses so that, I can send you, the link to the buyers, one with buyers Google Drive.
You want us to write it on the signage?
Oh, is it on here? Oh, I didn't even see that. If it's, yes, can you guys do that? Well, I see a few on here. If you did not do it, I have yours now. I have your stuff, and I don't have yours.
What is that first?
Bacon, BACON, Christy Bacon. Did you have a question for me? Okay. Was this helpful?
Yes, very.
Good.
Very good information.
your opinion on what? Cause I remember Kim came in and
Huh?
does something with it.
She was a listing, so she, for her, she gets paid a tiny little bit, thank you, to put them in the MLS. But then she gets any leads that come off of those listings, which can be super helpful. It's a lot of work, and she has one full-time girl that does nothing but work with the builders and putting the listings in. So it's a lot, but it does create leads for her team, which is very nice. She's had a great year. Kim has. As far as from a buyer perspective, so what you have to know about new construction is it's not gonna be your bread and butter because it's a long game. So when you build, it can be anywhere between a 6 to 12 month process. So I think it was Diana that said that she does a lot of new construction. She loves it for the fact that at the end of the year is when she sees a lot of those close. And so typically when you're like slower at the end of the year, she has these like strong Decembers, sometimes flowing into January because it's all of those new construction deals that are now closing. So, and you'll find your niche. I would say don't, like, for a while, I think Ayana did say she was just gonna do new construction. Well, she's realized now that it's really for sellers, like, that's where it's at. Work with the sellers, buyers. The goal is to be 50-50, 50% buyers, 50% sellers. But if you're gonna be anything, be more seller heavy, for less work, for the most part. I have 3 right now that I'm like, oh, this is a lot of work. But I've been spoiled because we've been in a market where things will sell overnight or like super fast. And so it's about having conversations so that they understand we have a longer game here. Days on market have just increased. So just because it didn't sell in the first weekend doesn't mean that it's not gonna sell. So it's hard. And then even you get frustrated too, so. So yeah, I would say new construction should just be an arm of what you do.
They close on
We close tomorrow on their new house. That's hot for sure with these open houses, we would have generated more showing function.
I told somebody about it.
Yeah, Instagram is definitely a thing.
One of Elliot Team South.
I do, I gotta return
I
a
told that
couple
guy
phone
about
calls.
it.
Real quick. If you got time.
For price survey now, I mean,
We can do it.
it's tough.
You drive. Let me know if you want to take it over there.
There you go, I know that very well.
Just like calling back.
Thank you guys very much for coming.
Sales. Are you having them today as well? It was something in my sales.
So I didn't have those dates set up.
What you're sitting on?
I got it.
Instagram.
What's that?
What are you sitting
A link to a Google Drive that has all of the information. Yeah, so you don't have to like.
I'll bounce on you.
All the-
My hair goes with one.
Okay, okay.
Thank you.
Oh, I know.
That's fine.
Girl, you
It
guys, they're everywhere.
helps you like stay focused on your conversation and like
Girl,
really get to
that
know.
first day, I didn't even allow them.
Oh, absolutely.
All of Tylenol, so I think they drive it to where I go, this balloon is crazy. We need to invest in it. Really. So every time I go home, it's not you.
Right, right.
How are the basics?
Right.
They last like 2 or 3 years.
Okay.
So, yeah. But them latex balloons don't last. They don't last.
It's fitting.
And they're expensive. I was.
So you didn't feel that way for everyone?
I'm gonna go there.
It's good to know because we need to be that way.
I didn't use your science lab. I was just here.
Yeah.
You made
Alright.
Yeah, it was a lot.
Okay, I'll slide to Steve.
Right, yeah. It's fast, everybody that does an open house for me, I usually try to sit down with and be like, okay, where are you at? Where- I didn't know.
Oh, I didn't know that. I just did it. That one thing.
I'm here putting up signs and then like everybody was like that.
Yeah, I totally don't mind doing that at all. In fact, it's definitely, yeah, for sure.
Right.
No, 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 no,
No, I don't.
absolutely, absolutely. In fact, I needed to tell Stephanie that too. If you wanted to like get together, I sat with Mel just for like, maybe like an hour or something, and it just kind of go over things.
Heck, yeah.
Like where you're at in your business, just because I'm so grateful that you guys do open houses. And then if anybody ever wants to sit in on a buyer's rep appointment, okay, I'll write your name down. The next step, no, but when I do. And they're totally, I mean, the people don't care that you're sitting there. I mean, it actually makes me more on point, like to not be lazy and to stick to the script because it's so easy to get like long-winded in there. So easy. So, I mean, I try, and I feel like if you rush too much, then you're just like making it even worse for them. But I feel like it's such important information. So they, sometimes on these classes, they give you all the like fluff stuff, but then you don't have like the real, like just like real estate classes. Your real estate classes, like, you didn't get like the detailed stuff that you really need to know.
Yeah,
So, yeah.
for sure.
Yeah, it wasn't in depth at all.
I know, and none of that prepares you for really what you have to expect.
Lawsuit language, it's none of that. you know?
Right,
It's none of that.
none of that, systems wise, none of that.
I believe it. You said your role from left. My job is to teach you how to pass this test.
Yep.
Oh, yeah,
That's
mine said the
Yeah,
same thing.
she told me that she was not planning to.
Like, okay.
So I pretty much.
Y'all made a very good decision coming here.
Oh, yeah, I have a spreadsheet of all the beverages that.
You did, you said, you made it, or they did?
They made a great decision.
Coming
I know, from the beginning,
Yeah.
right, from the beginning.
I had a spreadsheet of like 5 different beverages, questions for all of them.
We too.
Nice.
We too.
Mark.
But I also came from education, so like.
Right, and I think if you did come from education, it's so much more like attractive to you to be
Yeah.
like, oh, they have systems, oh, they're big into educating you, like, that's
Yeah.
important, I don't know anything. So, I mean, cause you literally get out of your real estate classes and go, I don't know anything.
Right.
Here comes that, you go out confident.
Right,
Like,